Hey, welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name is Elliott and you're watching Rickety Ski Reviews. Today, we're talking about who makes the best ski mittens. Now, obviously, some of this is subjective, some of this is gonna be based on fit and feel, but I have used a lot of different ski mittens over the years, and several brands this year sent me ski mittens to test, so I'm gonna tell you what I liked, what I didn't like, what each product is good at, and which product I think would work for each different use case. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. I'm gonna show you some of my favorite mittens from this winter. Now first off, this winter I tested level 9 Reusch and Leki Mittens. I've tried other ones over the years, like I've had Eau Claire when I was younger, I've had Hestra when I was younger, but so far for like this winter, this is what really stands out for me as like top picks in different categories, and I'll explain more later, it'll make more sense. But I do want to disclose a couple things. I bought all of the Reusch mittens myself out of pocket. I bought them from either like Sideline Swap or what's the other one? Gear Trade. A lot of times former racers will like change sponsorships or they'll get new mittens for the year and they will list their race mittens for pretty cheap. So little hack for you, I'm not sponsored by Sideline Swap or Gear Trade or any of those places. And in fact, some of those places you gotta be careful. I've had bad experiences with Sideline Swap. But anyway, you can go and find stuff because those racers don't really care. And for me, I don't have the biggest hands, so like sometimes the women's mittens work. So that is how I got the Reusch mittens. Leki and Levo mittens were provided to me. I'm not paid by them. They just sent me the product and I'm giving them my honest review. I did a whole Leki pole, trigger, and mitten review. So this is 100% my honest opinion, but just wanted to disclose it where it's relevant. But anyway, that's enough preamble. Let's get right into this review because I have a lot to say. Now first up, I tested the Level SQCF mitten. This is kind of a step down from their World Cup mitten, but still a race mitten in general. It just doesn't have quite as much bulk as their like top of the line World Cup mitten. These typically retail for $260, although right now you can get them for $206, depending on where you buy them from. I don't know that I have an affiliate link, but I will look, and if I do, I will list these. I had these in a size medium or size 8 European. The thing that I honestly think these do the best for, and you may be wondering why I tested race mittens. I feel like race mittens are kind of top of the line for a lot of these mitten makers, so it allows them to put their best foot forward. I also just personally really like the knuckles being padded on the top. If I drop my inside hand and want to get really low, I like that it drags, I like that it doesn't hurt me. I also like that they're made pretty durably around the thumbs. I've had with cheaper low-end mittens where they'll kind of split around this joint, right where the leather of the thumb meets the palm. And just in general for my racing days, I find that I really enjoy the fit and the feel of race mittens, unless it's like really warm or really cold. But all in all, I feel like this is a pretty good test of how well the mittens are made because the quality tends to be top notch in race mittens. And it's nice not hurting your knuckles if like the ground is too firm and you drag it a little bit. So what do these get right? Well, the one thing I really like is I really like the padding specifically on the thumbs. I feel like that's where they stood out. The number one like first impression I got from these is they are very rugged. You look at the material they use on the knuckles here and it's like this rubber, and on top of the rubber there's like little dots that kind of keep it in this like really rugged texture. They slide across well. The leather on the insides feels really premium. They also come with this little thing, the System Curax Stimulator. Essentially, from my understanding, Level's signature thing is that they have these little red nubs on the inside of the mitten, and what that does is it's supposed to massage the upside of your wrist and promote blood flow and increase your circulation and keep your hands warmer. I don't know that I've really noticed that. Idaho doesn't get that cold and I run pretty warm as it is, so maybe somebody with poor circulation would notice this better. I didn't notice it much. It felt good. It's nice to have like a little massager on there, but I don't know. From what I could tell, I didn't see much as far as utilitarian, but I'm not necessarily a target audience. Very good circulation. I run very warm and I always have. The thing that these do really well though is they are very durable. You just have like this like tire rubber here, this beaded tire rubber on the tops. As far as like first impressions, I was amazed after lots of mileage on these that they still look practically brand new. These are very tough skiers, especially if you're somebody who's really hard on your equipment. Like someone like my brother just shreds through mittens, he shreds through snow pants. I don't know how, it's like a ski style thing. He destroys his equipment. For someone like that, I think this is a perfect fit. So now we've talked about first impressions, which are mostly positive. Let's talk about some of the other good things about this product. I obviously love the rubber on the knuckles and the thumbs. I love these loops. I think this should be standard for every single glove or mitten. Having this little loop, essentially, when you have your jacket and everything else on in the snow, allows you to pull your mitten on tight, especially if you like a snug fit. I think that every single mitten should have these little loops. It is such a nice feature. Reusch, however you want to say it, has it as well. And I just think every single mitten should have this. There's no reason not to. It's such a nice quality of life feature. Like I said, I like the rubber on the knuckles. That is always the part that wears out. And I really like that they added an extra layer of leather over the hot spots on mittens. This is where you're gonna grab your skis from. This is where when you're holding your skis, it can cut it open. This is where you're gonna see a lot of wear and tear in your poles if you're a high mileage skier. I think that they really were very thoughtful in this design for durability because they added extra leather in those hot spots where you really need it. They added this rubber where you usually see wear out on the knuckles. If you ever see like old race mittens from Reusch, you'll see like the paint on old mittens is faded. I think that this is a very thoughtful, durable product. And honestly, in my opinion, that is the best part of this mitten. If you're looking for durability, if you are really getting low to the ground or like going in the trees and are rough with your stuff, I think this is a phenomenal product, especially for racers who are doing slalom. You know, gates just kind of get in areas weird. I really, really like the durability and the feel. Like this is a very tight feeling mitten. For some of you, you might want to size up. I think it does run a little bit smaller, but I like that tight fit around my hand. That about covers it for the things that I really like about it. But as always, with every product, now that we talked about the good, let's talk about some of the drawbacks because every product has drawbacks. There's just no way around that. Now the first drawback could be a drawback or could be a pro for you depending on how you feel about it. I felt like these were okay for warmth. They were like middle of the run as far as like the high-end mittens I tested go. I do feel like the massager on the top could be a plus or minus. You may find that you don't like this or you may want to size up to the point where it's not as noticeable. With a tight fitting mitten like this one, I did feel like it was noticeable and I could see some people find it annoying. If again though, if you have bad circulation, this may be a godsend for you. So I'd say it's 50-50. Pick your poison. You will feel this little nub kind of rubbing gently against the outside of your wrist. If you don't like that, I would just size up to kind of avoid that. If you have poor circulation, you may love that. I'd say that's a 50-50 pro or con, just depending on the audience. For me, I didn't love it or need it, but I could see where some people might really like it. The other drawback, I wouldn't mind a little bit more of the gentle textured padding. I like that this went for durability, but this is gonna sound weird. When you go to wipe your nose, it is just like shredding your face on these little like textured beads. It's really, really rough for material. That sounds so silly, right? You can wipe your nose with like a tissue or a little, like you can keep your handkerchief, whatever. It's really not a big deal. But for someone like me, like when it gets really cold and windy, I find myself wiping my nose and it's just like sandpaper on your face. So if you're somebody who does that a lot, maybe you could fix that by just, you know, not doing that. It's kind of a bad habit anyway. But I will say it is a little bit of a downside. The other downside, it just depends on taste. They have a lot of neutral colors. These are kind of flashier mittens. You have to kind of work to make them go with your outfit different, but they have black and white, so I don't know that that's a con necessarily. I kind of like the yellow. I like being able to see where my hands are. I like, you know, bright colors when you're trying to be found in the snow. When I see people in white jackets and white skis, I think that's nuts. I think flashy colors are great, but you know, they have different options, so that could be a pro or con, I don't know. They are a little on the flashy side. And I think that about wraps it up for cons, honestly. These are just, in general, well-made mittens. They just have a few kind of quirks that I think are gonna be for very specific people. And not all of their mittens force you to have that massager, so you may just want a different model. So what would I give these for a score? I think overall, they're rugged, they're dependable, they're a tight fit, like especially if you're somebody who likes things to feel tight and responsive, and when you're making those motions, have a really rugged, long-lasting mitten. I think these absolutely hit the nail on the head for that, but I do think that if you are a low mileage skier, if you're not skiing like more than 15 days a year, you may not get the value out of the ruggedness of these and there may be a better fit for you. So they're certainly premium priced and they're definitely premium material. They've thought of everything to keep these lasting you a long time. If you're somebody who wants a product that's gonna last you a long time, I think these are absolutely amazing. And like I said, in my opinion, this is the most rugged mitten you can get on the market right now. I have not seen anything where they're just using this raw rubber, really like being really thoughtful with their design. And in my opinion, at least from using them, that's where they really shine. So for me, they're an 8.6. They're definitely on the pricier end. I think that these will last you a long time. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, you know, cry once or buy twice. I forget how that saying goes. Kind of butchered it. But I do think this is a nice product and I would highly recommend it. So for me, this is an 8.6 out of 10. It's definitely pricey, but if it lasts you a long time, you're gonna get your money's worth. But if you don't ski that often, then it's hard to earn your money back on these. But if you're somebody who gets a lot of mileage and is tough on your gear, this would be my #1 recommendation. So for me, these are the most rugged and dependable mittens on the market. There are people out there, like I said, like my brother, who are really hard on their stuff. And I think for someone like that, this is a perfect recommendation. And just someone who wants to have something for a long time that is very durable. There's a couple of features that may turn you away, but all in all, a great mitten. Up next, we have the Leki Mittens. Leki, however you want to say it. I don't know, I don't care. Okay, so I tried several of their mittens. I tried the Helicon Lite, the Leki WCR mitten, which was probably what I put the most mileage on. And pretty close behind that, I had the Leki Explore Mitten S. Now, I primarily use these as my daily driver because I love the Leki trigger system, and then I use these on powder days. One, just because they worked well with the powder and being able to like take my mitten off and not lose it. It worked well with the pulls that I got. But all in all, these were the mittens I probably spent the most time in this winter. Now, I think Leki wins in a couple of categories. I've already got a full review of their trigger system where I go mitten by mitten, so you can see that. I'll have a link down below. But I love these mittens, and I think one of the ways that these really thrive is in their warmth. These are hands down the warmest race mittens I've ever worn. They're also very durable with this textured knuckle. It's not like a rubber like the Level, but it's still very durable, and I had no issues dragging it. I wore these all year and they look brand new still. But these are the warmest. You can see they've kind of got this insulated layer that allows them to have loft. That's one of the best features of it. They are so warm on your hands, even on the coldest days, and that is not always the case, especially with race mittens. And of course, I like the fit, I like the feel. The warmth, I think, is honestly the highlight of Leki. They make really nice mittens, but they also make them very warm, so if that's an issue, like if you're somebody who gets cold hands, I would probably steer you towards Leki. But the other big thing these have is the trigger system. Now, like I said, I have a whole review on the trigger system, but now that I have experienced the trigger system, I am never going back. I love using the trigger system for a couple of reasons. Here I've got the Leki Lightning 3D, which I didn't review, but I did use all springtime. They're a very thin glove, and I thought they were my favorite spring skiing glove. But the nice thing about these being integrated with the pulls with the trigger system, if you're not familiar, it just has like a little button here that you press down and it releases. It feels a lot like clipless pedals if you've ever had a clipless pedal mountain bike or road bike. But the thing I love about these when you get them fully integrated is that when you are carving and this is your inside hand, you can allow this pull to just drag and it does not leave your hand. It also allows you to really keep your upper body relaxed, so when you drive your downhill hand, you don't have to like have a death grip around it. You can just kind of have it open and have it get into position. I also really like it for using camera equipment on a hot day with these spring gloves. I'll leave them in the pull and then put the pull under my leg when I'm riding the chairlift. There is so much to love about the trigger system, and I think that they make nice mittens and I like the product, and I think that it's probably the warmest mitten out there as far as what I've tried, but this trigger system is just what pushes it over the edge as my favorite gloves and mittens as of right now, as far as what anyone's making out there. Now obviously if you have Leki pulls, you don't have to have Leki mittens. They have the little like straps that you can put over your mittens. You could also use these with a normal pull. But I really think that like as much as I love the feel of these and as much as I love the warmth of these, if you're somebody who gets cold hands, get this and then just pony up and get the pulls. I'm not like a big person who says buy, but if you're already buying at least one of the items, either a Leki pull or a Leki mitten, just take the full plunge and get the full experience. I'm not a big gimmick person. Like I was really skeptical about BOA. There's a bunch of like little things in skiing that I don't typically like or just seem unnecessary. For instance, like look pivots. For a few people it's really good, but not everybody needs look pivots. This is one of the times where I don't think it's a gimmick. I really think the trigger system is nice, and if you're gonna get one, just dive in and get the pulls and the mittens. The other one, like I talked about, I use these for backcountry skiing. I use these for powder. They were so warm. The snow skirt is really nice for keeping the snow off of your wrists. The only thing I would say is a drawback for these is that if you like crash into the powder, this little material around your wrist will get filled with snow, and then when you gotta take your mitten off and put it back in, that's cold. But every mitten this style deals with that. The other drawback of these mittens is like the levels, this texture right here, if you wipe your nose with it, your face will be raw. The nice thing about Leki though is they have some softer textures here. I was very nervous when I saw the different materials. So here you have kind of like a synthetic fiber, and then it is sewed into the leather. Whenever you have different materials sewed together, those can tend to be weak points or points of failure for the leather to pull apart, or for the stitching, I think, specifically to fail. In this case, they did not fail, and like I said, they look brand new. I used these a ton and had zero issues with it. So honestly, for me, out of what I'm using and what I find myself reaching for, the majority of the time, it's either the WCR mitten, or on like a big powder day or a really cold day, it's the Explore S. These are the warmest mittens I've ever owned. They also have like specifically a pocket for hand warmers. I haven't even had to use these because these are so dang warm. These are far and away my favorite mittens for a cold day or a powder day. And then for spring skiing, I love the thinness of these. Sometimes you get really thin gloves, like I've used half pipe gloves, and they're nice, but they just are so basic, or your pull strap can be really loose because there's less material there. I like having spring skiing with that trigger system. I think these are just awesome. And like I said, when it's really hot, it's nice to just pull your hand out of the glove and put this in between your legs and not have to worry about losing your mittens. I'll sometimes stash it in my jacket, but that can not work properly. It's nice just knowing on this chairlift, you have a place to put your glove. The other thing that's really exciting about the Leki trigger system is that they've announced partnerships with new brands. I think they announced a partnership with Hestra, and so as they partner with more companies, you will start to see more non-Leki mittens get that trigger system. And I just think that that's awesome because it's a cool system, and you know, not everybody wants to commit to just that one brand. So if they said, okay, well, I like my Hestra, maybe I'm ready to try this trigger system, I really think the more people that try it will enjoy it. Maybe it's not for everyone, but I was very pleasantly surprised by how much I liked it. All right, up next, let's talk about Reusch racing mittens. Now, I spent all year last year skiing in the Reusch World Champ mittens. These were former World Cup skiers. They've got still some of the blue dye from the race course. And then the Reusch World Cup Warrior mitt. Now, I used these probably the first half of this year. I took them to France. I got a ton of mileage on them, and no surprise, I really enjoyed them. I've been primarily using Reusch before I tried the Leki mittens. I had Reusch, Hestra, and then back to Reusch, and I've just found that one, I could find good deals on these, especially in the summer, and two, you know, like I said, I found really good deals buying these secondhand from World Cup racers. This was no exception. I have found that the thing I really like about these mittens is the fit and feel. For whatever reason, how my hands are shaped, this always feels like the best fit for me. It's firm, but not overly tight. I always feel like they have all these like nice features, again, like that loop, the same as I liked for the Leki and the Level mittens. I forgot to mention it, these Leki World Cups also have this pull string. But there's something about how the hand feels, especially around the thumb, that always feels really good. And the placement of their armor is always spot on. The nice thing they've got is this big knuckle piece, but also these folding wings here. That being said, these aren't as warm as the Leki mittens. They don't have the Leki trigger system. They're not as durable as the Level mittens. But, you know, for someone like me who skis really pretty, really dainty, I've been able to have these for over a decade. I've got a pair of the Excaliburs from like 2006, so oh my god, almost 2 decades now, and they still work great. The paint is chipping, there's some other things, but like they're still functional and still comfortable. I feel like this is kind of a perfect middle ground where maybe you're not too worried about the warmth because these are not the warmest mittens. Maybe you're not that rough on your stuff. The feel of this, like when you're grabbing a pull, feels excellent. The fit and feel is where this mitten really shines. The attention to detail, it's all really premium. But again, like level, there's no extra material around the thumb area where these mittens have failed. I've had the Reusch more basic mittens, and that thumb piece always fails on me. The World Cup ones I've had better luck with. But typically, you know, if you have race mittens long enough, you'll usually see a little hole right here where your thumb meets the palm of your hand. But man, do they feel good on your hand. So you just gotta pick what your priority is. I don't think the Leki feels much worse than this. I kind of feel like they're just as comfortable. They're not as form-fitted to my hand as these, and again, maybe these are just more broken in. But I do feel like on my hand, these feel the best. Like they're just the most precise fit around a human hand. But again, they're not the warmest. They don't have a lot of the integrations you'd want, and they're not as durable as the levels. I mean, there's just no beating around that. My brother has had Reusch mittens, and they maybe last him like a season or two before he just dissolves them from being rough with his gear. So, who's the winner here? I don't know. I think you just have to pick what your priority is. For years and years, I've loved my Reusch mittens. But, you know, like, there's a couple things that I feel like they're kind of lacking in. Like I said, they're not the warmest, but they're the best form-fitting, and I don't feel like you can have exactly both. So you say, okay, I get a comfortable Leki, it's super warm, it's form-fitting enough, that'll work. Or you say, hey, I'm pretty gentle with my gear, I don't maybe need them to be as durable as the level gloves. But if you just gotta be realistic. If you're really tough on your stuff, don't get a pair of Reusch's and expect them to last you 2 decades like mine have. I'm very nice with my stuff. I put it away every day. Everything goes back in its spot. But I do love the feel of these. Out of the box, these Reusch mittens always feel fantastic on my hands. So for me, who makes the best mitten? I think honestly, in a vacuum, these all are equally valuable and well-made mittens. I think these are the most durable, and I think there's a lot of value to that, having them last you a long time, getting your money's worth out of it. I think for warmth, these are always my go-to. If I want my hands to be warm, I'm not relying on that kind of circulation thing from Level. I want a warm mitten. And for fit and feel, that premium, tight feel around your hand, I'm going for the Reusch. I typically will even go down a size a little bit because it feels so good. But what mitten will I reach for the most out of the year? Honestly, probably the Lekis. I think they're all on the same level. They all have equal pluses and minuses, and I have very good circulation. I don't get cold hands. But what puts the Leki over the edge for me is this trigger system. I love using it so much with my pulls that I am not going back. If I have a pull that I'm testing that isn't using this, and I know I'm gonna be really rough on it, or if I'm going in the woods and I wanna beat something up, this is what I reach for. And when I'm looking for something to do kind of everything and I just wanna have the tightest fit, I'll go for this. But honestly, the warmth and the trigger system, I am constantly reaching for these. As somebody who's not paid by any of these brands, has just sent the product to test and give my unbiased opinion, I really love using the Leki products. I've loved the gloves, I love the powder mittens, and I love these race mittens for my daily driver. And I really think that the trigger system is just what tips it over the edge for me. Now, as more and more brands kind of get on board with the trigger system, that may change, right? I could see Reusch coming out with a new mitten, and I want to try that with the trigger system. Absolutely. I think there's a lot to love with all of these mittens. They're all made with top tier quality and all have great perks to them. But like I said, that trigger system just inches it over for me. Like I said, I'm excited to see everyone kind of adopt the trigger system because there are gonna be some really cool mittens out there. Now, again, with all of these mittens, they're expensive, they're not cheap. But, you know, if you look at my Reusch's from 2006, they've lasted me almost 2 decades. You're definitely getting your money's worth. Whereas I've had mittens that I got for cheap, or just half pipe gloves that I got when I couldn't find mine, or whatever, for spring gloves. And they definitely last maybe 3 to 4 seasons before the threads start to come off. Or I've had the cheaper Reusch's where they fell apart when I was a kid, or just carrying skis, they got shredded. I would say, in my opinion, if you're a high mileage skier, if you're skiing 30, 40, 50 days a year, get some nice mittens, especially if you have poor circulation. Keep your hands warm if you live in colder climates. I think it's absolutely worth spending the money for a nice pair of mittens. It's kind of like goggles, right? It's like, you're using it every day, if your hands are cold and you're miserable, you're not gonna wanna ski as much. And if you don't get as much mileage, you're not gonna be able to build those skills or whatever. You're just not spending time outdoors. So don't let the mittens be something that gets in your way. If, you know, mittens are expensive, I've had really good luck when my finances were lower, getting used mittens and having good luck there. But honestly, if you're looking to shop for mittens, there are some great deals even just like on the websites. So I'll kind of comb through, find the lowest prices for you guys, leave an affiliate link. If you want to support the channel and you're buying mittens anyway, please consider using those affiliate links. That's what allows me to not take money from any of these brands and give you my wholehearted, honest opinion. As always, we have channel memberships. If you want your comment kind of prioritized, you can like and subscribe, all that jazz. But as always, more than anything, just thanks for taking time out of your day to watch my video. I hope you enjoyed. This is my first video in the new studio. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. See ya.